Introducing Tony and Other People, a podcast. Here's your host, Tony Levesque.
So I don't exactly remember when we met. I think it must have been the coffee shop.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had seen you playing in your band.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also, my brother and sister-in-law are Pat and Helen Nortz, and they hired your band to play at Soft Maple in the garage next door.
Right.
And I think that's one of the first memories I have of you besides the coffee house, yes.
That was a good time up there.
That was a fantastic time.
Pat and Helen are awesome.
They are amazing.
I should have known you're related and you're Nortz.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. He fantastic family, absolutely lots of fun. Mm-hmm. And when our kids were growing up, my husband's name was Mike. Mike and Pat are brothers, and we started camping with Pat and Helen. Helen was always a camper. Her family always camped at Happy Hollow, and my family, we always were tenting. That's what we did for years, all my life. So Helen and I kind of got the guys into it,
right?
And we had a ball. Lots of families would get together.
I
and
knew
camp.
you back then, because we used to camp up at Happy Hollow. We had a permanent site up there.
Helen had the site there.
Okay.
We didn't. We
Right.
camped around the country and up at camp,
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's
a great place.
We spent a lot of time up there, and I believe we camped with Pat and Helen a few times because they used to camp with the Greenwoods.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
And we camped with them all the time.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, it's weird. My wife is 9 years younger than me, and she used to camp up at Happy Hollow. I never met her when she was younger, but apparently we were there around the same time. So it's amazing how life works,
Yes.
I used to say, you need to, how do I want to say it? The chance encounters you get, but sometimes it's the chance not encounters that really are important, because if I would have met her when she was a little kid, her being 9 years younger,
Right.
I don't think I ever could have dated her,
Right.
But we were older when
Yep.
we met, so probably a good thing. Yeah.
Everything always works out for the best.
Yep.
It always does.
And Josh is your son, right?
Yes.
Okay, I knew Josh when I lived in Krogan, because I lived in Krogan for a couple years.
Yep.
We tipped a few back a few times.
I bet.
Yeah, we had too much fun.
I'm
at
sure.
times.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, I loved hanging out with him because he always had a big old smile on his face, and just always had a good time no matter what. Sometimes a little too much fun, but yeah.
That's Josh, yes.
Yeah. But never anything ill-intentioned, he
Right,
always
right.
fun.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun. He has a lot of fun, and he is very outspoken and loud. And I think a lot of times when people talk about him and tell me how much they enjoy him, it's because he's willing to say what everybody else is thinking. He's just going to put it right out there. He's just going to freaking say it.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't seen him in quite a while. I miss hanging out with him a couple of years.
For several years he was away. He was in Watertown, and then he was in Farmington near Rochester, and he just moved back in January, and he just lives down the road from me now, which is great. And we, of course, we're in business together, so it's a little easier to collaborate when we're a few miles apart rather than a few hours apart.
So you're up in Soft Maple
Yes.
area? Okay, near your parents up there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because my brother lives right next door to your parents.
He does?
Yep, the old bush camp.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. At that Y, if you go left, I'm up the road one more mile on the right. Yep. On the road to Soft Maple Flow.
Right.
If you were gonna go up on the Soft Maple side, not the Belfort side.
See, my sister lives, if you go right at the Y, up maybe a quarter mile up there. She married Jeff Kirch.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was your sister. Cool. Yep.
Small world.
It is a small world.
Especially when you live in a small community like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you have a business. You've been doing that a long time.
I have. Actually, I started making jewelry when I got shortly out of high school. 40 some years ago, I started making jewelry, and I got married, and we had two boys, and they're about a year and a half apart. And at that point, I realized I needed to stop with soldering and all the tools and the chemicals, because I had two little boys that were going to do things they shouldn't do. So I quit silversmithing, which I had done for probably 2 or 3 years at that point, had learned from my mom and dad, and started making baskets. I was a basket weaver for about 20 years. That was easy. I could pick it up and put it down at will with a couple of little kids. It worked out great. And about 18 years ago, I wanted a pendant. And I had the dream of this pendant in my mind. It was lapis stone, and I knew the setting, and I kept trying to get my dad to make it for me. And he said, Lise, get your tools out. You can make it. Make it yourself. I got my tools out, and holy crap, I fell in love with silversmithing all over again, just never doing anything but that.
Isn't it amazing how you can be inspired just by somebody saying, "You do it yourself"?
Exactly.
And then you say, "Well, okay, I'll give it a try," and you can inspire yourself to do things.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I have loved all the things I've done. I loved making baskets. I taught class. I had a contract with LL Bean one year, made baskets for them.
Really?
And my basket was on the cover of one of their catalogs. Just a cool experience. Love to weave, and oftentimes people think I burned out and I got tired of it, and I did not get tired of it by any means, but I fell in love with silversmithing, and now I actually weave with metal, which is the best thing in the whole world for me. I love being able to combine both of those things. There's nothing better than weaving with metal, making a piece of jewelry.
I love looking at your pictures on Facebook and just saying, how did she do that?
Thank you.
And then I think you've put a few up with video.
Videos, yes.
Right.
Yeah, I do a lot of live videos. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. I do live videos. I would like to do them a lot. I just, it's hard to find the time, and I don't want to be interrupted when I'm doing the video. And oftentimes I have customers coming in the afternoon. That's not the best time for me to do it.
Right.
But yeah, it's fun. It really is fun. And I think people enjoy seeing how something is made.
Right.
And metal is very interesting. I think it's fascinating to see what you can do with it. And so I like to pass that on if I can.
Right. A lot of the stonework you do, too, is just, you see stone jewelry, and a lot of it is all the same. But when you see yours, you really kind of work around what shape it is and incorporate that into the metal, and it looks, comes out looking like one piece.
Yes.
Rather than they threw a stone on there.
Right.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, we get a lot of our stones. They actually come from all over the world. I don't do any cutting, polishing, or shaping of them. We get a cabochon or a bead, and we do what we can with it.
Right.
But it is fascinating, and the array of choices is just mind-boggling. I have hundreds of cabochons. Stones, and my dad has given me a lot of them, and I have bought some, and I need to buy them for customers, special orders oftentimes too. I have, like I said, I have hundreds to choose from. It's overwhelming when I open my trays and try to figure out what am I going to make today. I end up with 23 stones, and I can only make 6 today. So how do I sort through there? My
daughter is really into rocks. She loves collecting rocks. It used to be whatever was in the driveway, which, when she first collected them, it was just all gravel, nothing special. But now she's a little pickier, and we actually took her this past year to the Garnet Mine up on, I forget which
Northville?
mountain. On the way to, it's on the way to Lake George.
Yes.
I think it's Gore Mountain.
I think it is Gore Mountain, or certainly in that area.
Right,
yes.
Right. And she loved it, and it's interesting to learn how they do that and the history of it as well. But we come home with a giant bag of garnet stones, which is great because that's my wife's birthstone. Yeah,
it's a beautiful stone, that's for sure.
So eventually, I'm gonna get a hold of you and get something made.
Oh, that would be great, and that would be really meaningful. Certainly, that her daughter had. Yeah, right. Very cool.
But those have got to be hard to tumble right, because I think it's what they use for sandpaper.
Yes.
Because it's very sharp.
Yes.
And cuts at a certain angle. So to probably tumble it and make it round is very difficult, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they do. I'm not sure how they do all of that. That's not in my realm of knowledge.
You just... make it work.
Yeah, I just make it work.
Somebody else does that part.
Yeah, I actually have a very good friend, Nancy Brackett. lives in Potsdam, and her grandmother was a silversmith many years ago, and she had lots of her jewelry and was always intrigued, and came to me many years ago and took a couple of classes, got herself started on it, and ended up going out west and taking a class at Ghost Ranch, I think in New Mexico, and learning how to cut a slab of rock, shape it, polish it, and then inlay it into a piece of sterling silver jewelry. She makes amazing bracelets and rings and pins and bolo ties, but she does it all. She can get a hunk of rock, and she knows how to cut it. She has the equipment and the knowledge to cut it and shape it, polish it, and it's stunning work.
It's kind of weird working with fragile stuff like that, because I used to etch glass, and there were a few things that I, put so much work into, and then the glass gets broken.
Yes.
And then you realize, oh, I'm working with a very fragile thing here. Maybe I should be a little more careful next time. So I imagine that's how it is with cutting rock. You cut too much, and
Oh, I'm sure it can be quite the touchy. And really, even silversmithing, a lot of times we put a lot of work into a piece. I might be sawing a silhouette, and I have to solder a couple of things on top, and then I have to shape it into something. And then when you get all ready to go and set the stone in it, if you drop the stone on the cement floor and it cracked, then you're like, oh, I did all of that work for nothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of our stones are not calibrated, so it's not just I'll go grab another one that's shaped the same and pop it in there. Quite often everything is freeform shape, and especially glass. We do a lot with dichroic glass, which is made by glass artists, and those are just it's just a blob, and it can be any shape and size. So, yeah.
At least with the excuse me, trying to get over this cold. At least with the silver, you can always weld a piece on there or solder a piece on there, so it's moldable. You screw the whole thing up, you can basically start over. And
if you have to, you can just melt it down too. Melt it down and roll it out and do something else different with it. We have a lot of options. And that's what's nice about metal in a way, is it doesn't really go away.
Right.
We always have it. It's still there. We can melt it down and do something different. I actually have a lot of scrap, and I can't even begin to use all my scrap. I wait till the price of metal goes up, and I can mail it into my supplier and then get more product back, or get money if I want. I always get more product, of course. But yeah.
Now, is silver a lot like gold, where you have to put other stuff with it to harden it?
Yes, sterling silver, which is, we use probably 75 or 80% of what we make is with sterling. Sterling refers to the quality of silver, and it is 925 parts out of 1,000 is pure silver, and the other 75 parts is generally copper. That's traditional sterling. The copper gives it the rigidity that it needs to be a piece of something that's workable, and it also is why it tarnishes a little quicker. Pure silver is 999. Pure 999 fine silver is pure silver, much more malleable. That's what I use a lot of times when I'm weaving. Or if I'm if I need a big, thick piece of wire for a chain and I want to twist it or manipulate it in some way, if I use pure, I can do that a lot easier than if I use sterling. But it's not good for a ring, or it's too soft for a lot of things. Yes. And there's a new sterling silver called argentium, and it is 930 parts pure silver and 70 parts of a white metal called germanium. And it tarnishes much less quickly. So it works out well. I like it for making maybe something that's chainmail that would be difficult for an average person to clean in between all of the links. This is going to stay nice and shiny and bright much longer between polishings than a traditional sterling would.
So the chainmail, that's got to be time consuming.
It is, but it's for anybody that knits or crochets or quilts, it's just this thing you just do, and it's fun. You just get in the mode, and that's just what you're doing. I do it a lot of times when I'm at a show selling. I can have my little pile of rings there, and I can, do that. And if a customer wants something, I can drop my pliers and do whatever with them, and then I go right back to my chainmail. It's very satisfying, very soothing. Yeah,
it's got to be like meditation, where you can just shut your mind off.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love to make chain. I don't care if it's chain mail. I don't care what it is. My business pride is a lot of it is on the chains that we create, and we make a lot of different styles and sizes of chains. Always looking to do something a little different.
That's cool. What is? Well, kind of just answered that, but what is your favorite thing to make if you had to say not chain?
And my favorite thing probably wouldn't necessarily be chain, but I do, as I said, love to weave jewelry. I actually wove a basket, an egg style basket, a few weeks ago, and I did a video on some of that. It's not a piece of jewelry. It is just a basket, but it's maybe 3 inches long and a couple of inches high. And I used sterling silver for the frame, and then I wove it with pure silver that I had rolled flat. Something like that, or maybe the woven cuff bracelets that I do, I can put a pattern in. Much like a knitter, I don't want to knit two, purl two, knit two, purl two. I want to put your name in your hat when I knit. Right. I want to do something special, and that's what the weaving allows me to do with the metal. Right. So that's probably my favorite thing to do.
It's probably a lot more fun to challenge yourself.
Yes.
Something like that too.
Yes, definitely. And I love to set stones. I'm thrilled when a customer will say, I really want labradorite cuff bracelet, do whatever you think it needs to have. Right. And then I can just go and play. And I used to be intimidated many years ago when someone would say that. I was like, oh, I don't know. What if they don't like it? Right. I don't know what they want. And now I'm like, screw it. Yep. I'm going to make whatever I want, and if they don't like it, I don't care. I'll just sell it to somebody else. But 9 times out of 10, they ask me to do that because they like what I have done in the past. They've
seen your work and know and trust you to.
They like
to
that style, cool. Yeah. So that's cool. It's really nice when people trust you.
Yeah,
customers are awesome.
Yeah. A lot of your customers are repeat customers.
Very definitely.
Yeah.
Very definitely. And local people are very, very good to us. I talk to people, ask me all the time, do you go out of the state for shows? And I have done that once. I went to Vermont, and it was okay. It's a long drive. It's 3 days away from home, bigger commission to get into the show. I do a lot of things close to home, and really we are very well supported. The closer we are to home, the more appreciative people are. Right. And I have a lot of business. A lot of local people come to my studio. I'm on a road that goes pretty much to a dead end.
Right.
I live a half a mile back in the woods off of that road. And I had a couple of customers yesterday that came from Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And people that are from this area, or maybe they have visitors from other areas, they bring them, and they're glad to choose a stone, pick out a setting, or they're getting a pair of earrings for somebody that's graduating, or, I do have a lot of business at my studio, which has been really nice.
And they get to come in and kind of see
how
pull the curtain back a little.
Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're always like, oh, I didn't know that, you would be working in something like this. And what do you do with that? My rolling mill. And it's fun to be able to explain to people how I sawed a silhouette out of a piece of silver. They think I'm etching it in some way, and it's not. It's a saw blade, and, it's done by hand.
Yeah.
And it's very cool.
Cool. Do you listen to music while you're...
Constantly. Pandora is on all the time. Yeah. Anything from the Soggy Bottom Boys to Alice in Chains. Who knows? Right. That's the best part about Pandora. I got all my channels, and that's what I do. And generally, it's pretty loud. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to have that. I know.
It's fantastic.
When I used to work out, you'd think you'd want the pumping music, but I used to listen to like Norah Jones and something like that. For some reason, gets me pumped to do what I got to do. But if I'm relaxing doing art, I'll turn on Rage Against the Machine or something a lot heavier. It's weird what music can do to your mood and what you're doing.
If my Wi-Fi doesn't work for some strange reason, it's a very difficult day in the studio.
Yeah.
I really want my tunes.
Right. Nobody has a CD player anymore.
No. What the hell is that?
I do. I've got several.
Actually, and my boyfriend actually has a dual cassette player.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we listen to all kinds of 80s hair bands.
Yeah.
I didn't even know anybody had that anymore.
Yeah, I've got one out in the garage. I still have an Aldi's bag full of cassettes from when I was a kid.
Oh, cool.
And once in a while I'll pop those in. I actually had my friend Bud Mostyn, who I went to school with. He was on the podcast a while ago, and he records chiptune music, which is like a Game Boy hacked with the sounds from a Game Boy, and then he adds music on top of that. And he gave me his newest record, which was on a cassette tape. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect because I have a sound system out in the garage with a cassette player in there.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Not too many people have that in their garage,
right,
I'm sure.
Right. I still got the record player out there. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Something about that sound. I mean, it's nice that they're digitizing everything, and anything you want to hear you can find online. But there's just something different about putting a record on, hearing the pops and cracks on there.
And are there people that are starting to do that again?
Yeah.
I've heard that.
It's getting big now. A lot of people will release an album and then release, vinyl as well, because people claim the sound quality is better, which I don't disagree. I think
it is a different sound,
right?
For sure.
The problem is it's a lot more work. You have, physical albums, so you have to store them, take care of them, rather than an MP3 that you can load on every device that you have,
right.
And it's just there,
right,
whenever you want it. It's a lot more work, but if you put the work into it, the sound quality is a lot better. So
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't bought a record in a while. I normally get them at garage sales.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, which is hit and miss. Sometimes they're all scratched up, but sometimes you get a decent one for $1.50.
Yeah, you can't complain.
Right. Although Pandora is nice too. I probably shouldn't say that working at the radio station, but actually a lot of the ideas I get for playing music at the station is from Pandora. I'll put on a band that I know, and then it'll play a lot of similar stuff.
Right.
YouTube is the same way. When I go on YouTube and then I'll go down the side, similar stuff, and discover a lot of new bands that way. So
yeah, I'm thrilled with YouTube and Pandora, and all those options are just, it's just amazing. I used to ask my kids how to do something all the time, and they'll go YouTube it, Mom.
Yeah.
And they're right.
Yeah.
And I don't have to put up with a bad attitude while I YouTube it.
Right.
So it works out great.
Yeah. I had to change a light bulb in my car the other day, and my brother's a mechanic. He's been a mechanic forever, and it's just easier to say, hey, come change this bulb for me. And he wasn't around. I'm like, let me go on YouTube. I can do this myself. Of course, it wasn't that hard. It's changing a light bulb, but it was handy to have YouTube there, because they were like, you can really pry on this part. Don't worry about breaking it. You can't break it. And of course, before I turned on YouTube, I'm like, I'm going to break this.
Yep.
So it's nice to have that option there. Sometimes you have to sift through some crap to get where you want to go, but technology is amazing.
It is amazing. I agree.
And I find a lot of older people don't want to embrace it. And me getting older, I want to embrace every aspect of it, because I know the future, I'm going to be lost.
Yes.
Yeah,
we need to do this.
Yeah.
We need to do this.
My daughter's 4 and she has a tablet, and we were really concerned with getting her one at first. And I said, well, you kind of have to go with the flow. And kids are going to need to know that stuff, and I don't want her to be behind.
Exactly.
So our deal with her is it's only educational. So she can have the tablet, but she's got to be learning something.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So you learned your skill from your parents then?
Yes, my dad is a self-taught silversmith.
Okay.
And my
among
mom,
a million other things.
Yeah, and I say that about my dad all the time. You hear the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. My dad's a jack of all trades, master of a lot of them.
Yeah.
Stonemason, bricklayer, carpenter, leather clothing maker, antique dealer. He was an antique dealer for many years, and still has a hard time passing up a deal when because he knows I could sell it for blah blah blah. My dad's always buying and selling. It's great, but he's very good. But he did teach himself how to make jewelry from silverware that he had from being an antique dealer. He had actual sterling silverware.
Right.
And one of the first pieces that he made for me was from a fork. And the handle of the fork is a cuff bracelet that he made for me. Very simple, very rudimentary. And 2 tines of the fork he had spread apart in in a semicircle, and it became the center of a necklace called a naha, something from Native Americans. It would be at the bottom of a squash blossom necklace, and that's one of the pieces that he made for me. Those
cool.
are the two. Yeah, so I love that stuff. I just love that. He
Right.
did that, and no formal training, just trial and error. And actually, when you talk to people that are formally trained, we don't do it right. We're not doing it the right way, but we're getting it done, and that's and yourself, you ask 10 people how to put in a light bulb and they're all going to do it a different way, but the light bulb's going to work. So,
right. Growing up, my dad was a mechanic and, really a fabricator. He worked for Kraft forever and just built machines there, and insane with welding. And his obsession growing up was building chimes. So, he would take lengths of pipe and cut them perfectly. And he made a set one time with a set of spoons. And he just pounded them flat and put a dinger in there. And I was always amazed with the crazy stuff he built over the years.
Yep.
I don't know if I really got a lot of that. I am creative, but not in the same way. To whereas my brother loves to work with his hands and in being a mechanic, and he can find 10 million ways to do something or build a tool.
Right.
My dad was famous for that. He didn't have a tool, he would build it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. My dad does too. I have a lot of tools that he has built for me. Yep. It's those people, they know that it doesn't matter. They're not thinking inside the box. They're just figuring out how to do it, and which is great. It's a great talent to have.
And that's something that you don't seem to appreciate as a kid. You just, this is how I grow up, and this is what all dads are like. And then as you get to be an adult and use all the knowledge, you're like, wow, I was really lucky to have that. Yes.
That makes me think, when we were growing up, my mom and dad always would buy a home at a tax sale, and we would move there and sleep in a tent out. We'd stayed in a tent out back all summer long, and they would gut it and put it all back together and rebuild and make it beautiful. We'd live there a few years, then they'd go buy another piece of shit house somewhere. We lived on the number 4 road one summer, and we planted a garden while we were working on this house and dug the cellar out and poured a cement floor. My mother made pickles, canned, all the vegetables out back on a little stove underneath the tent. That's what we did, and it seemed like a perfectly normal thing to do. I sort of thought everybody lived that way. I didn't necessarily realize that we were any different, but certainly we had a lot of fun growing up, and we got to live in a lot of different homes, and we moved around a lot to different schools. I started out at Beaver River in kindergarten, and I went to Remsen Central for the next 6 years, and I went to Lowville for 4 years, and then we ended up back at Beaver River again in the stone house next to where your brother is. That was my mom. That was another piece of shit house they bought, and that was quite a job to clean that up. Rabbits had lived there for a long time.
Oh no!
And the gentleman supposedly that had lived in it last, Johnny Poole, liked them, and they came and sat at his dinner table with him.
There are all sorts out there.
Yep. Lots of fun. Beautiful home, though. Yeah, beautiful home, and really thick walls. Actually, very well. It was very well preserved. What I lived there just a couple of years. Mom and Dad lived there a little bit longer, but I moved on, and it was cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, some of those old houses, it's you drive by them and wonder, especially like the limestone houses around, which there are a ton of, especially southern Lewis County, and I always imagine the amount of work that would go into restore them to. Yeah, there's one in Collinsville. I think it's one of the older houses in Lewis County, and they say it's on one giant slab of limestone.
Really?
Yeah. So I just imagine the amount of work. I mean, nowadays you see a house built, it'll be fall and you see somebody start building a house and you're like, oh, they're not going to get that done. But sure enough, by wintertime, you see smoke coming out of it, and it's good to go.
Yep.
But back then, to build one of those, it must have taken years.
Yeah, it would seem like it.
Yeah. So the amount of work that goes into restoring that is nothing compared to,
the actual building
where it was originally. I imagine fitting windows and stuff. like that. What just a job. Mm-hmm. But that's when everyone had their specific skill set.
Right.
You know, you'd hire this guy to come in and do that, and now it seems like you just hire one guy and they do the whole thing.
They do everything. Yep, I agree.
Yep. That's why it's nice to have a certain skill.
Yes, it is.
So how much of what you do is commission, and how much of it is just I need to make some inventory?
That's a hard question. It depends on the time of the year. This time of year, we start to get some more, we get a lot more orders this time of year, lots of commissions. I don't do quite as many as I used to do. I'm not as hungry as I used to be. I make a pretty good living, and I don't have to do a lot of things that I don't necessarily want to do.
Right.
So that's been really nice. I love to just make jewelry. I just like to just make what I want to make.
Right.
That's my my real joy. And I'd say probably 50-50. And we'll probably have more orders as we get towards the holidays. I've already received a lot of them and even done a lot of them and kind of gotten them out of the way. I enjoy having my son in business with me.
Right.
I can pass a lot of things on to him. He's very capable of doing a lot of that, and he's willing to do that.
Right.
So that works out really well.
Gives him a skill and a future. And
yes. And my niece Emily Dicka is a fantastic silversmith as well.
She's got the Rooted Drifter?
Rooted Drifter.
Okay.
Yep. She and her husband have the Rooted Drifter.
Yep. Shane.
Yep. She's very multi-talented photographer, all kinds of things. And my younger son, Jeremy, has for many years made jewelry with me also. He's very creative, has a regular job, so he doesn't do as much as we do. But when I'm in a pinch, I can get a hold of him and his girlfriend Megan, and they'll kick it up a notch and do whatever we need. So that works out really well. I love to be able to say, we made this.
Right.
This is what my family does.
Right.
This is what we do.
It's amazing that they want to follow in the footsteps and are actually interested in what.
My mom and dad are absolutely thrilled beyond imagination.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Thrilled beyond imagination, yes. Very, very appreciative that we are interested. And it's funny because they taught both of the boys and they taught Emily, they've taught everybody how to do it. And some do, some don't. Some waited a long time. Some do it once in a while.
Right.
You just never know,
Yeah.
but it's there. You can't take it away. You have that knowledge, and you can always do it if you want to.
Now, were the kids always into that, or did it kind of come later in life?
No, they started when they were very young.
Okay.
They started doing it with mom when they were little, 6, 8, 10-year-old. They were, whenever they could hold the hammer, they did whatever. Yes. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm hoping my daughter follows a little bit in my footsteps.
Oh, I'm sure she will.
Yeah. And also sees the mistakes I made and says, ooh, I'm not going to do that. Being a parent's weird.
It's a whole different perspective. It is a whole different perspective.
I used to laugh at people, when they'd say, oh, my life changed when I had... Oh, come on. But it's true. It's cheesy, but it's true.
It is true.
Yep.
Yeah, it's never going to go back to what it was before.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by today. I know last week it didn't work out, had some chaos at the radio station.
No worries. Absolutely no
happens.
worries.
I'm glad you rolled with the punches.
Yeah, this was really fun. I'm really glad you asked me, Tony. Thank you.
And I'll make sure to put some links up to your Facebook page, and if you have a website, whatever you got.
Yes, I do.
And we'll send some business to your neck of the woods.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Way up in the neck of the woods.
Yeah, way up in the woods. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Tony and Other People, a podcast. Questions, comments, concerns for Tony's overall well-being? Want to be part of the show? Find us on Facebook or email us at tonyandotherpeople@gmail.com.